planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
Is the planet stupid?
No. It's the planet, stupid.
Linda, such a pleasure to be able to talk to you. Can you hear me?
I can, Mo. Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you and I can see your lovely face. Let's jump into this. And since we haven't talked before, I may ask some more general questions so you can get me up to speed. We are now at a time where we have an administration which does not care about anything which has to do with climate change, green energy, saving the planet, anything. How far, if you can quantify, does that set us back in our attempts to save the planet? Because it's the planet, stupid.
Okay. Love the intro. And yes, please feel free to interrupt me and ask questions because I can go on and on about the planet, which I'm very passionate about. So here's the thing. What the Trump administration is doing is just so incredibly short-sighted. I mean, we are ceding leadership over the planet, renewable energy, as a world leader in this domain completely to China. And it's super evident right now because the Conference of the Parties, COP30, so every year the United Nations, has this Conference of the Parties. This year it's happening in Brazil, in Belém, which is in the Amazon, which is amazing because, the Amazon is the lungs of the planet. And guess who isn't there? The US. So it makes the US look really dumb. And it really sets us back because this is the moment, this is the moment. And the fact is, so the first time Trump was our president, he pulled us out of COP. So it was COP15. It was the Conference of the Parties, so the UN meeting of world leaders that happened in 2015. Here's COP30 in Brazil. And he pulled us out of that. And here's the thing, 194 nations signed up at the time and said, yes, absolutely, we're really concerned about the climate. And here is what we're going to do as nations to bring emissions down. And he pulled us out the first time around. He pulled us out of COP the second time around. And so we're not there. And here's the thing, a lot of people go, well, we're not, emissions aren't going down fast enough. But because of COP and what happened, and I wanted to spell this out for people, because we were on a trajectory before 2015 to go to, I've got written down the numbers because I can't remember everything, 3.3 to 3.8 degrees Celsius, not what we use here, of climate change warming, disastrous. And because of what happened, in Paris that year, because nations committed to it, we're now on a trajectory to go to 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius. But we really need to be way lower, Mo. We need to be at 1.5. And we're at crunch time. So the fact that we're not there is super dumb. But is there? Our governor, Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is, as we've seen on social media, he's a superhero because and at COP, he is being followed around by everyone. They want to talk to him. I mean, the UN security guards can barely get him to the next thing he's going to be talking at because he's being so mobbed by people, by journalists, because they see him as he's the beacon of hope. That America didn't send, he sent himself to COP. And as he said there, this is why isn't every other governor of in the US there? You may not be able to go if you're a federal person, but if you're a governor, you can go. And here's the thing, so California, fourth largest economy in the world. 1 in 8 Americans lives in California. California, second only to Texas as far as how much renewable energy is generated here. We have a cap and trade on emissions that Gavin Newsom just extended to go to 2045. So he's there being the American superhero. And he's also going, because this is the other thing. Oh, God, no. So you take us out of the Paris Climate Accord. You call, it the Green New Scam. You try to pretend it isn't happening, but guess what? Climate change is happening. You also get American business leaders afraid to stand up and speak the truth about what's going on. But here's what's happening. They may not be in Belém, but American business leaders are there, and there are corporate climate conferences happening in Sao Paulo and in Rio de Janeiro. So in spite of what Trump is saying and the White House is saying, and Republicans might be saying, en masse to, stand in line with him. So we've got Darren Woods, CEO of Exxon, and he was at the last 3 COPs. So he's there in Brazil, but he's he's in Sao Paulo with the business leaders. He was part of his, push to go there was from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, because business leaders do see what's happening. And this conference in Sao Paulo is being put on by the Milken Institute. So the financier, the bond financier, Michael Milken, he was actually pardoned by Trump. That's a little bit of information for our listeners. But he's holding this conference, and Darren Woods is there. Now, Darren Woods is saying things like, because, he's ExxonMobil, so he has to say things like, well, it's not about, not having oil and gas, stopping that as an industry. It's about what we do with the emissions from burning oil and gas. And that's just passing the buck, obviously, for the pollution, the air pollution and the emissions that he's causing down the line. Not cool. But I think it's really important to see that while Trump may have left this, created this void by not sending, federal representatives to COP, the US is there anyway. Our business leaders, we've got Gavin, and Gavin is really, saying, like, the Trump administration may be out, but California isn't, and we are here, and we are ready to partner with all of you. And again, the 4th largest economy in the world. You can't argue with that, because it's all about economics. And this is a thing, actually, that Gavin is saying out loud and is really important. We really have to change the narrative and how we talk about climate change, and it was the thing that Bill Gates said in his memo a couple of weeks ago. We can't be talking about disasters and, all this doom and gloom stuff. Gavin said Democrats and everyone have to change it to, this is about the cost of living. This is about people's wallets, because it really is. Climate change and the disasters that come from it cost way too much money. Renewables are the cheapest form of energy being generated now than anything else, particularly offshore wind. And we even had, so Bill Gates came out, a few weeks ago and said this thing about, climate change. We can't talk about it as this, in this doomsday way. But he was actually in California a few days before COP started saying, look, my memo has been grossly misinterpreted. I wasn't saying that climate change isn't really important. It is. And actually, he's committed to spending even more of his fortune to mitigating climate change. He's just talking about the narrative as well. And
let me jump in there, Belinda, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you, but as I take an informal anecdotal poll of America, I don't know if Gavin Newsom and where he sits on climate change and the measures we should be taking to address it are going to be embraced by the fullness of America, and that speaks to whether he could become president. It seems like we're at a time where this country is okay with being dumb, and I mean that in a lot of ways. This country is okay with pursuing further petroleum and drilling products, even to our detriment. And we may be the 4th largest economy in the world, but we still have to deal with the economics of it. And my question to you is, is this country going to be able to rebound quickly enough? We're talking about a time in which the president has defunded NOAA, where we're contributing to our own demise in so many ways. Can we wake up the rest of the country in a short amount of time, or is it going to take more than one or two presidential election cycles to get this train back on the proverbial track?
Well, here's the thing. We had Trump, we had Biden, and now we've got Trump again. And when Biden came in, Biden enacted the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. That was the biggest amount of money ever put towards fighting climate change, that happened in the world. I mean, it was globally, massive, over $300 billion. And it changed things right away, Mo. Like the investment that we had coming from overseas companies, as well as what was happening here in offshore wind. We only had seven offshore wind turbines when Joe Biden became the president. And as soon as he got in, he gave the green light for, 1,500 wind turbines off the eastern seaboard and wind turbines off the California coast. So yes, it does change very quickly with administrations, as we see with Trump. We're sort of in this crazy revolving door right now. We go from, yes, we believe in climate change and we're doing something about it. No, we don't. Yes, we do. No, it's like, talk about flip-flopping. It's flip-flopping on a massive, kind of idiotic, but hugely impactful scale. And I think the thing is, they just did this poll right before COP, and they did it all over the world. They did it with 7,500 people sort of everywhere. How do you feel about climate change? And this is the thing. Everyone is concerned about, the majority of people are concerned about it, a super majority, above 66%, which is considered a super majority. But they're not sure that renewables are the way out. And this, I totally blame the media on, because the media gets, Trump is a 24/7 news cycle. Media, journalists don't have to do a thing. Trump just gets out of bed and they've got a story, But we really need to be reiterating, the things that are happening that are good. And this is why, my brand is Good Eco News. I want our audience to know that this transition is happening, whatever Trump says or does. I mean, Michael Bloomberg before COP just said, I'm going to give $100 million towards mitigating methane, which is a bigger greenhouse gas emitter than CO2. Bill Gates doubling down also on what he's spending on climate. Al Gore is at COP30. There, all this stuff is happening, and I think if we have the media framing it to Americans in the terms, and not just Americans, global citizens, this is about your wallet. This is about you being able to have affordable, reliable food, affordable, reliable energy, and a future for your children. So I think it's really, really important what Gavin is saying to all Democrats. You really have to talk about this as a cost of living thing, because, this is what it is. It's about a cost of living right now and then into the future.
Belinda, let me play the other side of that argument. I'm quite sure someone is either watching this conversation or thinking that, well, that's well and good, but this is not necessarily a messaging issue. I think by and large, people don't understand or believe in the urgency of the issue. And I'm not saying you need to scare everyone doom and gloom, that there's going to be some major storm that's going to wipe out the face of the earth, like the movie 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow. But I wonder if there doesn't have to be some sort of turning point where people can intellectually understand that this is not only a moral imperative, but it's imperative for the future of our country and world. And sometimes that has to be explained through bad news or bad circumstances. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Mo. Bad circumstances are already happening. I mean, we're getting these hugely destructive hurricanes, and that's because of warming oceans and warming atmosphere. I mean, that's game on. That's it's happening now. The northeastern part of the US is so susceptible now to flooding, and the flooding events that are happening say around the Appalachians and in Virginia, because of how much water is in the atmosphere, because of how warm the atmosphere is. Warm air holds more water vapor. So the flooding events that are happening are going to be happening in red states. So people are already feeling the effects of it. You know, the tornado season is more destructive, lasts longer. These superstorms, they're super crazy. What's about to happen with early warning systems also for these weather events, with the underfunding of NOAA taking away National Weather Service employees? I mean, there's a thing I was going to, so this is NOAA, and this is about tsunami warning. Now, tsunamis are rare, we know that, but they are incredibly destructive when they do happen. The 2004 tsunami that happened in Indonesia, that killed more than 250,000 people. 228,000 people died in that. The tsunami that happened in Japan after the Fukushima, there was the earthquake and the nuclear fallout and the tsunami, that was over 20,000 people. And when America woke up to tsunami, so in 1946, there was an earthquake up in Alaska. Alaska has the Pacific tectonic plate pushing underneath the Pacific tectonic plate. It's where the most earthquakes come from. So a tsunami in 1946 came out of Alaska heading for Hawaii. It was 138 feet high, traveling at the speed of a commercial jet airliner. There was no warning. So 154 people who happened to be just standing too close to the beach that day drowned. And then there was another one in 1964 on a US soil. And then we were like, okay, we need to have a warning system. So we put this tsunami warning system in place, and there are all these sensors all over the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, and there's an Alaskan earthquake center, because that's where the earthquakes come out of. Well, that's about to be underfunded. So these 9 centers that give us these early warnings, they can warn us within 5 minutes. So those sensors are going offline at the end of the month because of Trump cuts. And National Weather Service employees, those cuts are happening, and satellites that are up in the, going around the planet giving us meteorological information, those are being reduced. And so the less warning systems we have, the more holes there are in the information about the weather that's coming, the more you put American lives at risk. So I think those things are going to impact us, whether you live in a blue or a red or a purple, part of the US, and people are going to wake up because of those. I think in the midterms in 2026, what's going to happen to people's health insurance costs at the beginning of this year if they truly do cut, the Obamacare help that 20 million Americans rely on? That affects our wallets, and that is the number one thing. You affect our wallet, you affect our health, and both of these things do. And I think that wakes people up. And I think if we also have messaging, and if the Democrats can really take on board what Gavin is saying, and if they can really change the messaging and really get, the population at large to realize, how how climate change threatens them economically, how a switch to renewables will help them, and how that is possible. That's the messaging, and I think Gavin is absolutely right, and I think Bill Gates is right, and it's what I've been peddling in for the last decade. You've got to tell people the good stuff because it gives them hope, and the bad stuff makes them feel helpless.
Or put it another way, it's the planet, stupid. Linda Weymouth, eco-journalist, here to help us save the planet while we still can. Let me just add that, while we still can. Belinda, it was a pleasure to speak with you today. It's the first time we had a conversation, and I don't think it will be the last, but I look forward to our next dialogue.
Yeah, me too, Mo. Lovely to meet you, and go planet.
Go planet. Belinda, have a great...
More.
It's the planet stupid. No, it's the planet stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.